Coming up on No Pulp, the college football playoff picture is about to get hot, and it is getting murky along the way. But don't worry, Johnny and I have our Clorox wipes, and we'll try our best to clean things up.
Plus, don't look now, but Brian Kelly might have a good thing going after all. Down in Baton Rouge, what does a win over Alabama mean for the Tigers and the rest of the SEC? We'll tell you.
But don't just think about football, because college basketball is here, people. We'll head into the juicer, and we'll talk some college hoops along the way. All that starts on No Pulp, and it starts right now.
One of the Golden Spikes.
Sonny DeShero from Auburn.
The freshman never won. The freshman never won championships.
Chairman, you are an absolute sweat.
Cleveland the catch. Good if it does. He had it. Wow, he's getting serious.
Frankly, I'm pretty embarrassed.
Bang!
All day
Hey, it's time for some No Pulp. Johnny Gadamowitz, Calvin Christoforo here with you. And you know what's better than college football in the South?
Not much.
Yeah, the answer, nothing is better than college football in the South, because this weekend proved that. All the talk in the country was Georgia, Tennessee. Georgia number 1 in the AP, Tennessee number 1 in the CFP, and it was those dogs that came away with a 14-point win. So now the defending champs are the team to beat in the ACC once again. Right, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Calvin, that they were always the team to beat in the SEC. They did something this past weekend that nobody else could do all year, and that is stop Tennessee, and they did it without one of their leaders. Nolan Smith, torn pec, out for the year. You sack Hendon Hooker 6 times on the day. You got a good thing going. It sounds like the formula for teams to beat Tennessee, at least what they thought all year, was, okay, you got to outscore them because you can only hope to contain them on defense.
That's fair.
That's until
I've
this
always
weekend
said you
happened.
score more points, you get a great shot to win the game.
And that's what teams thought they would have to do to beat Tennessee. But
Yep,
at the end of the day,
that's a good mindset.
the defense, the name of the game, you hold Tennessee to only 13 points, really neutralized them all day long. The Bulldogs did just that.
And for Tennessee, now a team that has to fight and claw their way into the SEC title game, because not only does Georgia have a 1-game lead at them being undefeated, Tennessee with 1 loss, Georgia has a 2-game lead because they have the tiebreaker.
Yeah, I think it's a situation where Georgia has put themselves in a spot where they have elevated themselves to a level that, quite frankly, no one else is not only at right now, no one else is even close to.
They're really the pride of the SEC, the defending champs, now with Alabama getting their 2nd loss. We'll get to that in a second, but let's go back to Tennessee here for a second. Hendon Hooker, a guy that had all this Heisman hope, had a tough game against Georgia in that loss. Where does his Heisman status stand?
I'm not taking too much stock in this because I'm willing to give it more credit to the Georgia defense than a lack of Hooker executing. Look, Calvin, we live in a week-to-week type world. What have you done for me recently? I think Tennessee is mad. I think Hendon Hooker is mad. I think he's going to put on a show these next 3 weeks to close out the regular season. His Heisman status will be A-OK.
I completely disagree. How do you win the Heisman Trophy? You have a Heisman moment. No better to get it than on the road at Georgia, and he didn't get it. So I think his Heisman candidacy is gone.
Really?
So I throw it off the table if I could.
We will certainly keep an eye on that. More on the Heisman race coming up later in the show. Let's keep it in the SEC, though, because LSU topped Alabama in maybe the most exciting game that Week 10 had to offer. 32-31 in overtime. Brian Kelly's squad hands Bama its 2nd loss of the season and quite possibly puts Tide fans' hopes of a playoff berth to bed. But, Calvin, let's hit on LSU. Who deserves the most credit for this Tiger squad turning their year around?
Ready for this? This might be an unpopular answer. Father Time deserves the most credit because time heals all wounds. This was an LSU team that lost the opener to Florida State. Jalen Daniels didn't really look right in Brian Kelly's offense, but as time has gone along, they've had time to mesh in together with Daniels becoming more comfortable in the system. Brian Kelly implementing a winning system. You combine that with his defense playing better. time has healed LSU, and it's let the team mesh together for them to be able to get wins like this.
That's a cheap answer. Father
That's
Time
not
is
cheap.
he's not a real person. I'm going to give my answer to a real person, and that's Brian Kelly, the head coach of this football team. Look, he went into this week against Bama saying the only way you're going to pull this off is if you're fundamentally sound, and LSU was just that. You think about what this squad has done over the last 3 weeks. Wins over Florida, Ole Miss, and now Alabama in back-to-back weeks. Calvin, there is no world where that does not happen without near perfect execution from a head coaching standpoint. Give me Brian Kelly.
I'll take time. Time always wins.
Let's shift gears, though. On the flip side now for Alabama, it's been 2 losses on the year. The last time Nick Saban's crew dropped 2 games in the regular season, you got to go all the way back to 2019, which begs the question, Cal, is this the worst Bama team we've seen in the last decade?
The worst Bama team in the last decade. With the reigning Heisman Trophy winner on it? What kind of question is that? You look at Alabama's 2 losses. By 3, on the road against a Tennessee team that was just ranked the #1 team in the land last week. Then on the road, by 1 in overtime when LSU goes for 2 at the end of the game to a top 10 team in LSU. Come on, is Alabama not a top team in the country? They absolutely still are. This is a very good football team.
Yeah, and a 1-2 punch of Bryce Young and Jahmyr Gibbs. It's tough to put them in a worst team in the past decade type category when you've got a 1-2 punch as dynamic as that. And we hit on them earlier. Georgia, the SEC, I should say, belongs to Georgia now. Step aside, Alabama. The last couple of times we've seen a team from the SEC really emerge and threaten Bama, whether it be Florida, LSU. Bama's responded. Georgia's proven they're the top dogs.
All right, the fun is over. No more SEC football. And we have to go north to South Bend, Indiana, to a game that's better known as the Fraud Bowl between Clemson and Notre Dame. We finally got to see the true colors of Dabo Swinney's Clemson Tigers as his team got trounced 35-14 and left the game with more question marks than answers. Who is going to start under center? DJ Uyunglele got pulled in favor of Cade Klubnik, who immediately came in and threw a pick 6 and got benched himself. So, Johnny, going forward, who should be under center for the Tigers?
The clear answer is Cade Klubnik.
What?
It has to be Calvin, right?
Look at his stats.
Well, here's my thing.
0 for 1.
Here's my thing.
Pick 6.
It's not as if DJ Uyunglele is this mystery man anymore, right? Like, the book has been written on him. The tape is out. We've seen an Uyunglele-led Clemson offense for going on nearly 2 years now, and I hate to break it to you, it's not very good. Clemson is not going anywhere this year, clearly, after the loss this week. So let's get Klubnik as much real game reps as you can and plan for the future.
Game tomorrow. Who are you taking, Klubnik or DJ to be
Klubnik?
That is a absolutely ridiculous take. There is no way you trust Cade Klubnik, who threw 1 pass in South Bend and it got picked 90 yards the other way.
But it's not about tomorrow for Clemson at this point.
They're 8-1. They still think they have a shot to go to the college football playoff.
I think you got to be thinking long term.
That is a absolutely ridiculous take. But we have to move on here on No Pulp. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the best 4 teams in the nation. Who's in our college football playoffs? Find out when we return. No Pulp is just getting started.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Jason, let's go see your room.
Did you hear about the pony with a sore throat? He was a little horse. Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why couldn't the Why was the basketball court all wet? Why? Because the players kept dribbling all over it. Where do cats go on vacation? New York.
Oh, hey, didn't see you there. Welcome back to No Pull with Calvin C.
You didn't see him there.
I'm Johnny G. Calvin, you can tell by this beautiful TV screen behind us, college football playoff 52 days away, which means it's time to answer that $1 million question. Calvin, who you got going dancing come New Year's Eve?
Well, I think I might need a wet towel to cool off from the heat we just talked about in the open, but I can't because we're going to move on. I got more facts to give you. My number one team in the country, no surprise, the Georgia Bulldogs. We all know this is the best team in the nation, undefeated, reigning national champs. Cupcake schedule coming up, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Georgia Tech, the Yellow Jackets, a team to close out the year. Set and forget, no questions here. Number one team in the land, unquestioned Georgia. Number two, this is where we start to get a little bit interesting. My number two team in the country going to the college football playoff, the Buckeyes of Ohio State. And
it's a lot of black and red.
A little bit hard for me. Maybe you like the colors black and red. Do you ever think of that?
Nice scheme.
This one's a little bit tough for me because Michigan holds a soft spot in my heart, but I don't think both of them are getting in. The winner of that game between Ohio State and Michigan is going to the college football playoff. The loser in my eyes isn't. And why I picked Ohio State over Michigan? Well, that game is in Columbus, not in Ann Arbor, so I like Ohio State. Okay, time to get interesting. Number three, here come the hot takes. Texas Christian University. The Horned Frogs are going to the college football playoff in Stephen A. Smith style. Why? Well, because they're undefeated. Does an undefeated conference champion get into the college football playoff? Absolutely they do. You can give me this nonsense of, okay, each of their last 5 wins were decided by 10 points or fewer. I don't care. TCU going to the college football playoff. Baylor, Texas, Iowa State remaining on their schedule. Horned Frogs win out, go to the CFP. I just think Max Duggan at the helm has too much experience to not win out and get into the CFP. Okay, here we go. Now we're going a little bit off the rails.
This could be very intriguing. I'm very curious. Oh my goodness.
The University of Southern California.
You've been on this train for a couple months now.
That is exactly why. Okay, I have 2 reasons. Number one, pretty selfish. I picked them to go to the college football playoff preseason, and I'd really like to keep my pick going forward because they're not dead yet. You can give me all this nonsense of, okay, well, Oregon and Utah are the 2 teams that are going to be playing for a Pac-12 title. Well, guess what? They play coming up in this season next week. I think Oregon wins that game, giving Utah its second loss, and then Southern Cal has 1 loss going into the Pac-12 title game, a 1-point loss to Utah on the road, win and in. Give me the Trojans going to the CFP.
That sounds like a little bit of a reach. I'm not going to say it's blasphemous because I could see a world where it happens. But for me personally, it's a little bit of a reach.
Conference champions matter. Conference champions, and especially conference champions in the Conference of Champions.
I hear you. We agree on 2 of our 4. With that said, let's check out my 4. It shouldn't come as much of a surprise for the 2 that we are going to agree on. We'll start with the best team in all the land. That's the Georgia Bulldogs, and for good reason. Look, I think anyone who remotely follows the sport of college football and does not have Kirby Smart and Stetson Bennett's crew penciled in that number 1 spot, maybe you need to pick a new sport because this is a Georgia team that has shown they are invincible. It doesn't matter who they're going up against. It doesn't matter where, they will beat you. Now, as for number 2, I'll go over to the Big Ten, and the other one that I agree with you on, Calvin, I'll go with the Buckeyes. I just think C.J. Stroud has a really good thing going with this OSU squad. I do see them taking down Michigan, and I think that's enough to get them the nod into the CFP. After that, though, this is where things get interesting.
Yes, let's get fun.
I think Ohio State-Michigan is a very close game that comes down to the wire. Assuming it is, and Michigan wins out, I don't see how you keep Michigan out. I think this is a Michigan squad. J.J. McCarthy,
they play each other
Blake
too.
Corum. Right. I think it makes for a really intriguing college football playoff matchup, which, whether you want to admit it or not, the committee has to consider when they look at these potential semifinals. We can see round 2 of OSU-Michigan, and I think we get it. It all depends on whether or not that's a close game in a couple of weeks, and I think it will be.
So are you assuming TCU gets lost?
Yes. And that brings me to my next point, number 4. Give me Tennessee.
Tennessee!
In order for Tennessee to get in, 2 things need to happen. TCU needs to lose a game. I think they do that this week against Texas. And Georgia needs to win the SEC. I think that's going to happen bar none. You can't have any LSUs sneaking in. Tennessee, I mentioned it earlier on in the show. I think they're mad. I think they're out to prove that, look, they are legit as much as everyone was hyping them up early on in the season. I think these are the best 4 teams in college football, and these are the 4 teams that we will be seeing come college football playoff time. We'll see.
Do you think they'd switch them, though? So Tennessee would be playing Ohio State?
I don't think so. I think they give Michigan the 3. I think they give Tennessee the 4.
I think conference champions mean something.
All right, we'll find out. We're going to answer those questions coming up in the next few weeks. But when we come back here on No Pulp, it's time to switch gears over to the gridiron. Leo Silverman will go toe-to-toe with none other than yours truly in the juicer as we break down who to look forward to ahead of the college hoops season.
Hoops!
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
Meet Norm. He lives with anxiety, but with the help of this latest innovation from Be Normal, he can be normal, just like everyone else. With the swipe of a finger, you can project happiness, confidence, machismo. Why settle for being real when you can be normal? The Normal Maker. New from Be Normal. This item doesn't really work because there's no such thing as normal. We're all different. What we like, how our brains work. In fact, 1 in 5 of us live with mental illness. Don't filter who you are. Start by talking to someone you trust. And remember, there is no normal.
The black truck? Hey, Christina from accounting.
Yeah, hi.
Hey, I used to date a girl named Christina.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then she dumped me for my best friend. You want to see some photos of them that I took?
I don't.
I thought we talked about this, buddy.
Buzzed and overshared again?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna call a car.
That's a smart idea.
So yeah, I know, that's why I did it.
Hey, you're gonna get back to the top of the mountain.
Does that mean I'm gonna get back with Christina?
No.
Oh.
No.
Welcome back into No Pulp, and it's time for the Juicer with Johnny Gadamowitz and Leo Silverman joining the program. I'm Calvin Christoforo. Hey, Leo, we've had a little bit of a checkered past in this segment, so I'm going to try to come into this with a completely open mind, and if your answers are better than Johnny's, you will win.
Well, it sounds like I have the advantage based on that.
You might have a little bit of advantage. I'm going to ask you guys questions about some college basketball topics. Whoever's answer I like better will get a point. You get the most points, you win. Pretty simple. We'll start with this one. Which new coach in the women's basketball realm will have the most success at her new school?
Calvin, a little earlier on in the show, we were talking Georgia football. I want to go back to Athens now and talk some Georgia women's hoops. Okay. I'm saying Katie Abramson Henderson. This is someone who comes over from UCF with a very stout resume. Across 17 seasons, her winning percentage as a head coach, well over 700. She's averaging 22 wins per year, a 4-time conference coach of the year, led UCF to its first NCAA tournament a year ago, and a school record of 26 wins in 2021-2022. She gets the call up to go to a Power 5 program now with Georgia, and a Georgia team that should put people on notice in the SEC because of their head coach.
It's a good pick, Johnny. The key thing, going up to a Power 5 and, pulling a team to get to that March Madness. My pick didn't need to get pulled to a Power 5 to go into any sort of Sweet 16 action. My pick here, I'm going to make sure I don't butcher the pronunciation on this one. We're going Umaka Ugugwa Hamilton. Coach Mox is her nickname, the Virginia head coach. Listen, both our picks here used to coach for the Missouri State Lady Bears. But my pick here went to the Sweet 16 recently in 2021 with that pick. I like all the regular season numbers, Johnny, but I'll take the one that knows how to get it done when it comes to March. And Coach Mox knows how to get it done when it comes to March. 4th year as a head coach, already going to an ACC program.
Wait a second. Didn't the Knights go to the tournament last
He
year?
actually took him for the first time in school history.
Yeah, what are you talking
Sweet
about?
16.
I'll tell you this, Silverman. You know where your coach is going? Virginia, a team that's had just one winning season since 2011-2012.
She's
They're
the
going
cornerstone.
into an ACC conference that's loaded. No shot she has more success than the candidate that Johnny has presented. 1-0 Gadamowitz, but Silverman, I'll let you redeem yourself because you're going first, and we'll just switch it. Which coach on the men's side will have the most success in their first season?
Calvin, you always got to love the alma mater player returning to head coach at their school.
It's like a true, storybook ending.
It's a storybook ending, and
Yeah.
Shaheen Holloway of Seton Hall is going to have that storybook ending with out there in the Big East.
Are you talking the Peacocks?
I am talking the Peacocks. I mean, listen, it's a coach who took a MAC school to the Elite Eight. The Cinderella run is just so amazing to watch. If you can get a team there, you've got to pick them to have success, especially when you go to a Big East squad like Seton Hall. Are you kidding me? And listen, Calvin, even if you don't take my pick with Mr. Holloway as the pick, NCAA.com, they polled a bunch of anonymous coaches around at, college basketball before the season kicked off. They picked Mr. Holloway as their favorite coach.
I don't care. Quite frankly, I don't
I'm
care.
behind him. The nation's behind him.
That means absolutely nothing to me. That's why, Johnny, you can go now.
All right, it's a cute answer. I'll give you that. I'll call it cute. I'm going to take the slam dunk answer. It's John Shire. Look, taking over for Coach K, someone who's been on that Duke staff since 2013, 2014. He's got the nation's top-ranked freshman class, a lot of bells and whistles for him to work with. And I know Duke doesn't return nearly the same veteran talent that they normally do, a la Mark Williams a year ago, but they do have their captain, Jeremy Roach, back. You pair him with all that freshman, it might be a first-year head coach in Shire, but Calvin, not unrealistic to expect the Blue Devils to go on a very deep March run.
Here's the thing. It's an expectation game, and Duke has expectations, and they want to do two things every year. Beat North Carolina and go deep in the tournament. Well, guess what? John Shire is going to take a step back to what Coach K was. They're not better than Carolina. They're not going as deep in the tournament. Wow. You know what was lower expectations? That's Seton Hall, and that's why Holloway and company are going to have more success here this year. 1-1 your score. Moving on. We're going from the bench to the court. Back to the women's game we go, Johnny. Which new player on a new team in women's hoopla will have the most success this season?
Yeah, we'll go back to the SEC in this case. I'm going to LSU this time around. I like Angel Reese. This is someone that comes over from Maryland as arguably the top player in the transfer portal in 2022. And for good reason. Led the Terps to the Sweet 16 this past year. First Maryland sophomore to average a double-double since all the way back in 1975. An AP All-American third-teamer. A big get for the LSU Tigers. And she's got what it takes to make sure that she can translate that play from the Big Ten over to the SEC. A little bit of a step up, arguably, in the conference, but her play will certainly carry over.
Johnny, certainly the safe pick. Everybody believes that's going to be the best transfer from Mrs. Reese there. But I'm going to stick with the higher scoring option here. Rakia Jackson, the Lady Volunteer. She scored 20 points a game for that terrible Mississippi State squad. Now she gets to plug in with Tennessee this year with probably one of the best backcourts in the SEC along with that LSU backcourt. I think it's going to be a slam dunk plug play with her in that forward position. And Tennessee, they're coming off a Sweet 16 run. They're going to look pretty darn good with Jackson there in that front court.
Even though you kind of already conceded your answer to Johnny, I'm going to still go with you here, Leo. You know why? No translation needed. A 20-point score in the SEC, stays in the SEC, plug and play. Silverman takes a 2-1 lead.
All right.
We'll go to the men's side, and I'll make this one worth 2. Make everything fair so Johnny feels like he's a fair shake to win this.
I would hope I have a fair shake.
We'll
Otherwise it would be rigged.
We'll go over to the men's side. Leo, same question. Which newcomer in men's basketball will have the biggest impact?
Calvin, I'm going to go with a proven transfer here. Give me Tyrese Hunter heading to Coach Beard in Texas. I mean, listen, we're talking about a Big 12 freshman of the year. And on top of that, he already proved in March Madness that he can get it done. He had 23 points against those LSU Tigers and shot 7 triples, knocked 7 triples down to give them a win in the round of 32. And on top of that, he can score, Johnny. Well, he also led the assists for those Cyclones. So, I know there's a lot of great recruits coming in this year to men's college hoops.
There are.
But I'm going to take the proven talent that proved it in March with Texas.
Nope. I'm not taking the transfer. I'm taking the top freshman. We'll go down to Waco, Texas, more specifically Baylor. How about Keontae George, the man who they call a walking bucket? You want off balance? you want in transition, you want in the paint, you want mid-range, you want three-point. He can do it all. This is someone who is a 5-star out of IMG Academy. He checks all the boxes, and if he does what he's supposed to do as far as putting the ball in the hoop, Baylor might be cutting some nets down in March.
Leo, I hate Iowa State. So for you to give me that answer is insulting, but you know what I hate more? Unproven commodities, and that is a freshman. I'm going Silverman here. He wins out a 4-1 Leo win in the juicer. I don't like this guy. Don't get it twisted. I do not like this man, but his answer's better tonight. He wins in the juicer. We're wrapping things up here on No Pulp when we come back and we go back to the gridiron. We'll tell you about the game of the week here on No Pulp and also give you our final words when we return.
They'll test you. Try to break your will. But however loud the loudness gets, however many cheese puffs may fly, you're the driver, the one in control. Stand firm. Just wait. And move only when you hear the click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be?
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck. So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Welcome back into No Pulp, and it's that time of the show. It's everyone's favorite part. It's the No Pulp Game of the Week.
It's time for the No Pulp Game of the Week.
No Pulp Game of the Week time, Johnny, but unfortunately, it's a slow news week. We're going to the American for our Game of the Week. Central Florida and Tulane.
What the heck is that about?
I mean, give me a pillow, but hey, we got to pick it here. UCF number 22 in the land, 7-2. Tulane 8-1, number 17. Who do you like?
Roll Wave, 2-10 a year ago to an American powerhouse this year. Tulane hasn't scored under 24 points since September 17th, and this one's personal. UCF held them to 10 points last year. Give me Tulane big.
Tulane's got great uniforms, but I like UCF. They have a known commodity in Gus Malzahn as a great head coach and an SEC quarterback in John Reese Plumlee. I think they get it done. But hey, we're moving away from the American. You're welcome. And we're getting in to my final words. Look, conference divisions stink. They do. And this take isn't hot. It's been said time after time. But after Alabama's second loss of the season, this is even more highlighted because a 2-loss team is going to play in the SEC title game. Tennessee might have just one loss, but they're out of luck. Same team goes in the Big Ten. Either Michigan or Ohio State is going to be playing for the conference title, and the other one isn't. The team that's going to get in over them, Illinois, what? The game for a conference championship should be between the best two teams in the nation, and it's not, and it's wrong.
Now we'll switch gears to my final word for the day, and for that, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Heisman race. If you'd allow me, Hendon Hooker might have dropped out of the top spot, but that doesn't mean he's out of contention. Just because he couldn't necessarily get the job done against the Bulldogs doesn't mean he can't finish strong, retake that top spot. Then there's C.J. Stroud. You've got him. You've got Drake May in Carolina as well. Okay, you want me to move outside of quarterbacks? Oh, I didn't even mention Bryce Young, actually. How about Blake Corum, a running back with Michigan that is putting up yards and touchdowns like he is simply playing Madden? This Heisman race is as wide open as it has been in a very long time, Calvin.
I'll tell you this, for a fact, one person will win the Heisman, everyone else you just mentioned won't. For my partner, Johnny Gadamowitz, I'm Calvin Christoforo for Leo Silverman, who had to join us. That's all we got. We'll catch you next time on No Pulp.